Hello and welcome back to Bioclass Bites. In this video, we are going to talk about the reproductive system. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like and share this video. Although viewed as a whole, the human body is actually made up of 10 different systems. Each of these systems plays a vital part in the health and well-being of the entire body. In this video, we are going to focus on the reproductive system. Humans have two types of reproductive system. We have the male reproductive system and the female reproductive system. You see here the universal symbol for male and the universal symbol for female. We will discuss them separately. Here are the components of the male reproductive system. The external structures include the penis, scrotum, and testicles or testes, while the internal structures include the epididymis, vas deferens, prostate gland, urethra, and bladder. The functions of the male reproductive system are to produce, maintain, and transport sperm cells, which are the male gametes or the male sex cells, and its protective fluid called semen. To discharge sperm within the female reproductive tract, to ensure conception and fertilization, and to produce and secrete male sex hormones. These are the parts of the male reproductive system. So you start off with the urethral opening. So this is where both the urine and semen leaves the male body. Then the penis, followed by the different glands that produce the semen, prostate, bulbourethral gland, seminal vesicles, and then this pathway in which the sperm travels from the testicles called the vas deferens, and then testicles where the sperm cells are produced, and epididymis where they mature. Okay, this is the urinary bladder. I recommend that you watch this video, Human Physiology, Functional Anatomy of the Male Reproductive System, from Janus. I will provide the link in the description below. So let's look at the external structures of the male reproductive system as well as their function. So this includes your penis, okay? So the penis is made up of two parts, the shaft and the glands, okay? Glands penis or the tip of the penis. So the function of the penis is to deliver the sperm through the urethra of the male body into the vagina of the female reproductive system. Okay, so this is the method by which the sperm cells coming from the testicles will eventually get delivered into the female reproductive tract. Then scrotum is the also known as scrotal sac, is the covering that contains the testicles. Okay, testicles and epididymis, and it hangs under the penis. Okay, so this is the outer structure. We call that the scrotum. Then testicle, okay, or testes. So is the main primary male sex characteristic. So so that you will be categorized as a male or identified as male if you have this structured testicle. So this is aside from being an endocrine gland, it is responsible for producing the male sex hormone testosterone. This is also the site of sperm cell production. Now we go to the internal structures of the male reproductive system. So if the sperm cells are produced in the testicle, they mature in the epididymis. Okay, so this is actually a system of tubes that sits next to the testicle, each of the testicle, and this is where the sperm cells mature and stored. And then eventually they will be transported out of the vas deferens in order to be secreted as part of the semen. So here in the testicle and epididymis, only the sperm cells are produced, stored, and matured. Then the sperm cells will travel in this very long tube called vas deferens or ductus deferens. This is a thin muscular tube which transports the sperm cell from the epididymis into the urethra, okay, out of the body. Then these are just some of these are the glands that contribute to the fluid semen. So do not be confused that the fluid that comes out of the penis is called semen. Semen contains sperm cells and other substances derived or produced by the following glands. So semen, liquid portion that contains the sperm cell, sperm or sperm cells, that's the male sex cells. So the prostate gland sits below the urinary bladder. Um, it surrounds the urethra and produces some of the fluids from the fluids for the semen. So in this video, all the details of the different molecules and substances produced by the glands will be thoroughly discussed. So that's why I recommend that you actually watch this video. Very important. So here, the prostate gland also produce some of the fluids of the semen. This is actually one of the major areas for cancer development. So prostate gland is prone to cancer formation. That's why prostate cancer is common is common for men, okay, because they have prostate gland. Next, seminal vesicle, um, um, another vesicle or another structure that secretes important substances as addition to the semen. Okay, so in the two seminal vesicles, they secrete a thick fluid that nourishes the sperm cells in the semen. And then urinary bladder, so this is where urine is stored until it is ready to be released through the urethra. So the urinary bladder, aside from being part of the reproductive system, is also part of the urinary system or the excretory system. And then urethra, so this is the tube that carries both the semen and the urine out of the penis. So I understand that it is impossible for males to secrete, to ejaculate semen and urinate at the same time. So it usually only one, either the urine goes out first or the semen goes out first. So there's a constriction of the vesicles here that will not allow both of those materials to leave the urethra. So either the urine or the semen will be released. So let's trace the pathway of sperm development from testicles out of the urethra or urethral opening. So first they mature in the testicles. Okay, so they are created here. They originate here through mitosis. So that will be our topic for the second quarter. Meiotic and mitotic division. So they will travel out into the epididymis. Okay, so they will leave the epididymis and then they will go to the vas deferens. Okay, and then they will pass through the seminal vesicle. So as the sperm cell travels here, the seminal vesicle will add its fluid for the semen to be produced, and then prostate gland. Okay, so here more fluids will be added to form the semen, and then the semen which now contains the fluid and the sperm cells will now be ejaculated out of the urethra. Okay. So spermatogenesis is the term given to the process by which male spermatogonia, so this is the parent cell of sperm cells, develop into mature spermatozoa, also known as the sperm cell. So sperm cell and spermatozoa refer to the same thing. Spermatogonia is the parent cell of sperm cells. So this will be thoroughly discussed under meiosis in the third quarter. So spermatozoa or mature sperm cells, so this is that structure, is the mature male gametes or male sex cells in many sexually reproducing organisms. So spermatogenesis is the male version of gametogenesis. So whenever you hear the word gametes, it refers to the sex cells of that organism. So in males, their gametes or sex cells are sperm cells. In females, their gametes are egg cells. So look at the structure of a mature spermatozoa. So these are the parts. So these are cells, okay? So these are the parts of the sperm cell. So you have here the head of the sperm cell, which contains the nucleus, the DNA material of the father of the male, and then it has its own plasma membrane and acrosome. The acrosome is very important because this is the substance that breaks apart or breaks or chips off or digests the protective covering of the egg cell that will allow the sperm cell to fertilize the egg cell. Then as you can see here, each sperm cell has a lot of mitochondria in its mid or connecting piece. Okay, so mitochondria, if you still remember, these are the organelles responsible for energy generation. Okay, they are the powerhouse of the cell. So they have a lot of mitochondria, sperm cells, because they need to swim. Okay, they need to travel from the vagina into the uterus, into the fallopian tube, just to reach the egg cell. Okay, so they need a lot of energy. And then you have here the tail of the sperm cell. Okay, so the sperm cell actually swims by uh, um, in a corkscrew or in a spiraling manner like that. Okay, not like that, like a snake, but more in a corkscrew manner. Okay, so spermatogenesis starts at puberty for males and usually continues uninterrupted until death. It means that as soon as a male starts on puberty, he can produce sperm cells until his death. Okay, all throughout his life, he can produce sperm cells because spermatogenesis is the production of sperm cells. So, a male can produce sperm cell until his death, although there's a slight decrease with an increase of age. Slight decrease in the quantity produced of sperm cells as the male ages. So, spermatogenesis is highly dependent upon optimal conditions for the process to occur, and spermatogenesis is important for sexual reproduction. So, when we go to our lesson in the second quarter, sexual reproduction, you will see the importance of spermatogenesis. So, we've also mentioned that the develop that the testicles are the primary sex characteristics. It means that in order for you to be considered a male, you have to have testicles. But aside from that, a human male also possesses secondary male sex characteristics. Okay, so that from afar he will be recognized by the opposite sex as a male. So during puberty, the following development will occur. So together with spermatogenesis, development of facial hair, broadening of shoulders, increased body hair in some males, growth of pubic hair from the up from the pubic region up to the navel, maturation of the male genital organ or the maturation of the penis, and the body becoming more muscular. So all of these are made possible at the onset of puberty due to the secretion of male sex hormones. Okay, so male sex hormones. So this erection and ejaculation are two different processes that occurs in the male reproductive system. So just to clarify, erection refers to the penis. Okay, so this is a physiological phenomenon wherein the penis becomes enlarged and firm, and the reason for that is because it is filled with blood. Okay, so there are no bones in the penis. It does not become engorged or enlarged because of bones. It actually becomes filled with blood. So after that, then the next process is the ejaculation or the ejection of semen, which usually contains the sperm cell. So erection refers to the enlargement of the penis. Ejaculation refers to the release of the semen out of the urethra. So the semen usually contains the sperm cell, and then it is usually accompanied by orgasm or a pleasurable release in males. Okay, so again, sperm cells are produced in the testicles. They travel out of the epididymis, then pass through different glands. They mix with the semen, the fluid semen, and then the penis becomes erect. Then the semen is now ejaculated out of the urethra. So now let's review review the different parts of the male reproductive system. So this part, number 1, is your urinary bladder. Number 2, this part or structure is the urethra. So it starts from the urinary bladder and leaves out of the penis, out of the tip of the penis. Then prostate gland just below the urinary bladder. Then you have your penis here. Then number 5 is the seminal vesicle. 6, epididymis. 7, vas deferens. And 8, testicles. The components of the female reproductive system are the external structures, which include the labia minora, labia majora, vaginal opening, the clitoris, and urethra. The internal structures would be the actual vaginal canal, cervix, uterus, fallopian tubes, and ovaries. So the female reproductive system functions to produce, maintain, and transport the egg cells. So that would be the counterpart of sperm cells. Egg cells are the female gametes or female sex cells to the site of fertilization. And that will be the fallopian tubes. Nourishes the fetus should fertilization take place and produces female sex hormones that maintain the reproductive cycle of the female body. So these are some of the structures of the female reproductive system. So the outermost structures, the external structures, is actually called vulva. Okay, let us correct the misconception because whenever people say vagina, this is what they think of. Okay, but in reality, this external structure is collectively called vulva. So these are your labia majora, labia minora, clitoris, and urethral opening. Vagina, the real structure of vagina is actually the canal. Okay? The canal in which blood comes out during menstruation and the baby comes out during birth and the penis goes in during sexual intercourse. So vagina is a canal. Vulva is the external structure. And then you have your cervix here, then the uterus where the fetus grows, then the fallopian tube or uterine tube, which connect uterine tubes which connect the uterus to the ovary, and ovary here. So you have your left and right ovaries, and these are the site of egg cell production. So this is where your egg cells mature, and then this is also where they are kept. So these are some of the parts of the female reproductive system. So similar to the male reproductive system, I also recommend that you watch this video from Janus, Human Physiology, Functional Anatomy of the Female Reproductive System. Everything that we need to know, that we need to discuss is found in this video. I'll provide the link in the description below. So let's look first at the external structures of the female reproductive system. So I've mentioned that all of this external structure is collectively called vulva. Okay? So here, this entire external structure is vulva, and vagina is the canal. So what we have here is actually the vaginal opening. Vaginal opening. So let's look at the structures. So first, labia majora. This is the outermost flaps, and they are actually thicker flaps compared to labia minora. That's why major. The outermost flap that surrounds the vulva. Okay, then the inner flap is called labia minora. By the way, the term labia here means lips because they can be compared with those structures. So labia minora is the inner flap, okay, that's found in the vulva, and it actually surrounds the opening of the vagina or the vaginal opening. Okay. Then this is the vagina or vaginal opening. So it's a structure that connects from the opening into the uterus inside. So this is the path of the birth, the path that the baby follows during birth. This is also where the blood comes out during menstruation and the penis goes in during sexual intercourse. And clitoris. So this is found somewhere here above the labia minora. So this is actually a very sensitive structure. It has a lot of nerve endings and very sensitive to touch. So this is found in this region, just above the labia minora. And urethra. So this is where urine comes out. Unlike in males, wherein the urethral opening is also where the urine and the semen goes out, in the female reproductive system, we have a separate opening for urine. Okay? So in females, we have three openings in this region. So we have the urethral opening for urine, vaginal opening for blood and for the baby and for penis during sexual intercourse, and then anus for feces. Okay? So urine, blood, and then feces. So now let's go to the internal structures. Okay, so remember this is the vaginal opening. It leads into a tube-like structure inside, and that would be this one, vagina. Okay? So vagina is a tube-like organ that connects the uterus to outside of the body. Again, this is the pathway of the baby during birth, blood during menstruation, and penis during sexual intercourse. Now this region wherein there's this narrowing of the uterus, okay, this narrow part is called cervix. Okay, so this is the lower portion of the uterus that leads into the vagina. So if you're coming from outside, no, if the perspective is from vagina, so you enter first the cervix before you go into the uterus. During labor, the cervix can expand up to 4 inches in order to accommodate the head of the baby that's being born. Cervix also means neck. If we study the skeletal system, the neck is also called cervix. Okay? But here, the cervix that we're referring to refers to the narrowing of the uterus. Then upward, so you have your uterus. This is a pear-shaped organ. Okay, very small, but very muscular. Okay, so this is also called the womb, and this is where the baby grows during pregnancy. The uterus is very powerful, very muscular, because it can expand many times its original size just to accommodate the growing fetus. Now, if there's no pregnancy, so the uterus is also the site of endometrial lining formation. So this is where the blood that's formed that comes out during menstruation. When you have your menstruation, the blood came from your uterus. Okay, so these are those parts. Endometrial lining, that's what we call it. And then fallopian tube. So these are tubes or ovarian tubes or oviducts or uterine tubes. These are the extensions of the uterus. Okay. And one thing you have to know about the fallopian tubes is that this is the site of fertilization. This is where the sperm cell meets the egg cell. Not here in the ovary, not here in the uterus. This is where fertilization takes place. So the egg cell will leave the ovary. It will go to the fallopian tube, and then during sexual intercourse, once the semen is released, the sperm cell will travel up into the uterus and then into the fallopian tube to meet the egg cell here for fertilization. And then once fertilization occurs, the zygote will now implant itself in the uterus. That's the reason why every month we have menstruation, we have ovulation, because the uterus is expecting that fertilized egg cell, because in the blood, that is where the zygote will implant itself so that it can grow. However, if no fertilization occurs, then all this blood will be shed for that month, and then a fresh lining of blood will be created next month. Okay, so fallopian tube, site of fertilization or union of egg cell and sperm cell. This is where they meet. And then ovaries, these are the primary sex characteristics for females. So you will be categorized as a female if you have ovaries. So these are the site of egg cell production. Okay, so the ovaries, this is where the egg cells are produced. And the ovaries are also, if you still remember in endocrine system, the ovaries are also endocrine glands. They produce the female hormones estrogen and progesterone. Females undergo puberty between the ages of 10 and 14. So during this time, a lot of hormonal changes occur within the body. So the first one would be the release of luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone from the pituitary gland. If you still remember, pituitary gland is one of the endocrine glands of the body, okay? And these are just some of the hormones it produces. So these two, luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone, targets or stimulates the production of the sex hormone, and it targets the ovaries. Okay, so once those hormones reach the ovaries, they will then start to produce estrogen and progesterone, which will begin the bodily changes that happen in the female body during puberty. So if males, so in males, their primary sex characteristic are their testicles. In females, the primary sex characteristic would be the ovaries. Their secondary female sex characteristics are as follows. So as the female undergoes puberty, that includes changes would include maturation or of the breast or enlargement of the breast, having a more feminine body shape by having a broader hips, and growing of pubic hair in the pubic region. Now, this is what we call the hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis. Do not be overwhelmed. It's quite easy to understand. This is very important for you to know what happens to your body during your monthly cycle. It is called as such because all of these changes happen in the hypothalamus, in the pituitary gland, and then in the ovaries. So it divides the events of the female monthly cycle into the ovarian cycle, what's happening in the ovaries, the hormonal control, what are the changes in the hormones throughout the month, and then what's happening in the uterus. So let's look at it one by one. So first, uterine cycle. Okay, so this one will start at the bottom. So menstruation is the most obvious phase or the most obvious stage of uterine cycle because this is where you see something happening. So for females, for you to understand your monthly cycle, your menstrual cycle, the first day of bleeding, the first day that you see blood on your underwear is also the first day of your cycle. So the day one of menstruation is also the first day of your cycle. So usually the bleeding or the menstruation or the release of the blood from the uterus takes about 3 to 5 days. Okay? Then for the rest of the month, you will not notice any changes in your uterus because it's internal. Okay, it's an internal structure. By the way, this is a representation of what's happening in your uterus. So if you still remember, okay, I mentioned this that somewhere here. So this is your uterus, and this is where those blood becomes where those blood develops. Okay, so the blood here thickens so that in anticipation of fertilization, the zygote can embed itself in the blood lining here. So this is what's happening in your uterus. Okay, that's what the graph is showing us. Okay. So as you can see here, day 1 to around day 5, the shedding of the uterine lining. So it will be removed from the uterus. But around day 6 onward, you will see here a slow thickening of the uterine lining. So it slowly thickens in anticipation of fertilization. Now, by day 28 or 29 or 30, depending on your monthly count, if no fertilization occur, this has to be shed. This has to be removed. This lining of blood will be shed in another menstruation, and that's the count of the next menstrual cycle. So from day 6 to day 28 and no fertilization, no implantation happens, all this blood will be shed in the next menstruation of the next cycle. Okay? Sige. Now, while all these things are happening in your uterus, how about in your ovaries? So, they actually follow the same timeline, okay? So, during menstruation, during the shedding of blood, that's also the time wherein a follicle, okay, so this is that structure that contains the egg cell here. So, this is the follicle, and then this small structure is your egg cell. So, during the time that your uterus is shedding blood through menstruation, that's also the time that your follicle is growing in the ovaries. So again so blood comes from the uterus, from the uterine lining. The ovaries, this is where your egg cells develop and mature. So this is what's happening right now. So inside your ovaries, from day 1 to day 5 or day 7, the follicles matures. Okay, the follicle grows, and then the follicle slowly matures. Right around day 14, okay, right around day 14 is the process of ovulation. That is when the ovary releases the egg cell into the fallopian tube. So ovulation is the process by which the ovary releases the egg cell into the fallopian tube. So here, as you can see here, all of this are happening in the fallopian, in the ovary. But here, the ovary releases the egg cell into the fallopian tube. So that happens around day 14. So this is very crucial because this is when fertilization could successfully take place. So during this time of the month, and sexual intercourse happens, and there's a waiting egg cell in the fallopian tube, and a sperm cell happens to meet it, then fertilization could take place, and then pregnancy could result. So that's it. That could happen in this window. However, if no fertilization happens around day 18, the egg cell will slowly the egg cell will be expelled from the female body, and then the follicle will eventually degenerate. Okay, the corpus luteum will form, and then the container, the follicle, will slowly degenerate. Okay, until the end of the month, and the menstruation of the next month will trigger the growth of another follicle. Okay? So this must be synchronized. Okay? This happens in a synchronized manner. So first, for day 1 to around day 5, during menstruation, the follicle matures. And then around day 14, the ovary releases the egg cell into the fallopian tube in anticipation for fertilization. If no fertilization occurs, the follicle will degenerate, and then by the end of the month, the start of the menstruation will also trigger the growth of another follicle. Now, I mentioned the term synchronized. How does the body ensure that these processes will be synchronized? That is where the hormonal control will come in. Okay, so the hypothalamic, pituitary, ovarian axis will mostly center around hormonal control. So how does that happen? So during the first days of menstruation, that is when all the hormones are at their lowest secretion. So the hormones estradiol, luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, and progesterone are at their lowest secretion. Okay? So that's during menstruation, as you can see here. However, as the days go by, some of the hormones will start to pick up. Okay? They start to be secreted in more numerous amount. So right before ovulation, you will notice there a peak, okay, a peak in the secretion of the follicle-stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone coming from the pituitary gland, okay, the pituitary gland. This peak in the release of hormones will actually trigger ovulation, okay? So there's this days before ovulation, there will be this peak, there's rise in the secretion of luteinizing and follicle stimulating hormone to trigger ovulation. However, right after ovulation, okay, there will be that sudden drop of these hormones. Okay? Now, as these hormones drop, okay, there will be a gradual increase in estradiol and progesterone, okay, mimicking the thickening of the uterine lining. Okay, so this happens because the female reproductive system is still expecting pregnancy, still expecting fertilization. That's why it's preparing everything just in case a zygote will embed itself. It's preparing the thickening of the uterus just in case a zygote will embed itself in the uterus should fertilization occur. However, so it will wait for several more days. However, during this time, if no fertilization occurs, if no embedding occurs, if no pregnancy occurs, everything will suddenly, all the secretions will suddenly drop, and that will trigger menstruation. So the degeneration of the follicles, um, there's no pregnancy that occurred, no fertilization occurred. It will trigger the drop of all the hormones, and then it will trigger the bleeding or the menstruation of the next month or the next cycle. That's why, as you can see here, it always starts with a very low level of secretion of the hormones. Is that clear? Okay, so again, at the hormonal control at the start of the month during menstruation, all the hormones are at their lowest secretion. Right before ovulation, there's a peak, a rise in luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone to trigger ovulation. Then progesterone and estradiol will rise for the rest of the month, anticipating for pregnancy. If no pregnancy occurs, all the secretions will drop, will lower, and that will trigger menstruation of the next month. Now, scientists were also able, so I hope that's clear. So scientists were also able to determine the relationship between the hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis with the temperature of the female body. So they noticed that during ovulation, so if this is the regular body temperature, during ovulation, there will be a rise in the body temperature. So the female body becomes a bit hotter, a higher temperature during ovulation or during anticipation of pregnancy. So if there's no pregnancy occurs, then it will be lowered for the next month. Right? So this one is a bit useful for those adult and married females who are preparing for pregnancy or anticipating pregnancy. Okay? Sige. I have a lot of recommended videos for you to watch. I hope that you will find the time to look at them because these are all very informative. So this is from Glamour. This is your period in 2 minutes. So it will tell you what really happens in the female body and how to adjust to it. I'll provide the link in the description below. Then ovulation from Nucleus Health. So again, ovulation is the release of the egg cell from the ovary into the fallopian tube. So kindly watch this video, link in the description below. This one is from TED Ed, How Menstruation Works. Please watch this, very important, link in the description below. Why do women have periods? Still from TED Ed. So it compares the female menstrual cycle with other mammals. So again, please watch this, link below. From Nucleus Health, Nucleus Medical Media. So what happens? Everything that we have tackled so far, we are anticipating that no pregnancy occurs. But what if fertilization occurs? How will it happen? So this video will explain that to you. It's very informative. So link in the description below. And then, so after fertilization, so what will happen now during pregnancy? This is from National Geographic, so Pregnancy 101. This shows us the changes in the female body and the growth of the fetus inside during pregnancy, linked in the description below. So I've mentioned a while ago that the uterus is a very muscular and very powerful organ, and it has the ability to grow several times its original size. So here is a comparison of a normal uterus. It's a pear-shaped organ. Okay. However, it can grow several times its original size. So imagine the comparison. Imagine the increase in size. It can grow several times, pushing out all the organs organs in the female body, squeezing them all in just to accommodate the growing fetus. And this happens for 9 months. Okay. So the growth the growth will culminate at 9 months of pregnancy until birth. So these are more informative videos. This is from TED-Ed. So how do pregnancy tests work? So you will notice here the reaction of pregnancy tests to hormones in the body. So linked in the description below. And these are more from Nucleus Medical Media. Two types of birth. So this is a natural birth or vaginal birth, labor and delivery, linked in the description below, and cesarean section. So how do women give birth via cesarean section? So linked in the description below. So let's review the different parts of the female reproductive system. So this is your number 1, that's your fallopian tube. Number 2, it attaches to the ovaries. Number 3 is your uterus, and then the narrowing of the uterus is called the cervix. This canal is called the vagina, and here the outermost or external part is called vulva. Now, I'm not sure. I think this has been tackled to you, or this will be tackled with you by your Araling Panlipunan teacher. But I hope that you have an idea about the difference between gender, biological sex, and sexual attraction. Right? So just to clarify, biological sex refers to your physical body. Okay? So biological sex is further divided into genetic sex. So what chromosomes your body is carrying. So if your 23rd chromosome carries 2 X chromosomes, then you're genetically female. If your 23rd chromosome carries an XY chromosome, you're genetically male. In anatomy and physiology, we've mentioned this. If you have the testicles, if you have testicles or testes, then you are considered male. If you have ovaries, then you are considered female. Gender expression refers to how you translate your biological sex. So most of the time, the humans with ovaries are considered feminine and express themselves in a feminine way, while those humans with testicles are considered express themselves masculine. Right? Gender identity, on the other hand, is how they feel inside. Okay, so what if they are woman inside or man inside, or how they identify with their gender. Okay, so are you more womanly or are you more manly? That's gender identity. So sexual attraction refers to whose sex you are mostly attracted to. So are you attracted mostly to male? Are you attracted mostly to female? So that's attraction. So again, biological sex, that's the primary sex characteristics that you have. Attraction, that's your more your emotional feelings, identity, how you see yourself, and then how you express all of this is your gender expression. If you have more questions about this concern, about this issue, you can actually talk to our guidance counselors, and they are very much willing to answer your questions about this topic. Okay, so there. Now, for your reflective journal log for this unit, Human Anatomy and Physiology, I recommend that you watch this video from Kyrgyzstan. what are you? I'll provide the link in the description below. So this one will summarize everything that we've tackled about all the organ systems. And you'll be surprised to know that at the end of the video, at the end of the question, this is actually quite difficult to answer. Okay, so this question, what are you? Very difficult to answer. I hope you'll find the time to watch this. I'll provide the link in the description below. To learn more about the diseases of the human body, particularly of the two reproductive systems we've just discussed, I recommend that you visit these lecture PDFs from the online library. I'll provide the link in the description below. That ends our video. I hope you learned something new. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like and share this video. Till next time, goodbye.